There is a 4-kilometer strip of land between North and South Korea. It is the most heavily armed border on the planet. More than 1 million soldiers stand within artillery range of each other here. It's wrapped in more landmines than almost anywhere else on Earth. And technically, the war that created it never actually ended. This is the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. And despite the name, it might be the least demilitarized place on the planet. Let's start with the basics, because the DMZ is stranger than most people realize. It runs almost 250 kilometers across the Korean peninsula, roughly following the front line where fighting stopped in 1953. It's about 4 kilometers wide, 2 kilometers of buffer on the North Korean side, 2 kilometers on the South Korean side. Inside that buffer, almost no permanent human presence, which is exactly why, ironically, it's become one of the most pristine, undisturbed wildlife habitats in Asia. Endangered cranes, Asiatic black bears, and possibly, though unconfirmed, Amur leopards, live inside a strip of land also lined with landmines and razor wire. But just outside that buffer, on both sides, are some of the densest concentrations of military hardware anywhere on Earth. Here's the part that surprises a lot of people. The Korean War never officially ended. In 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea, dragging in the United States, China, and a coalition of UN forces. 3 years and roughly 3 million deaths later, the fighting stopped, but not with a peace treaty. With an armistice, a ceasefire, North Korea, China, and the United Nations Command signed it in July 1953, in the village of Panmunjom. South Korea's president at the time refused to sign at all. He wanted to keep fighting North. So legally, North and South Korea are still at war. 7 decades of tension, propaganda broadcasts, and occasional gunfire, all under a ceasefire that was only ever meant to be temporary. That unresolved status is why the DMZ isn't just a border. It's a frozen battlefield. Inside the DMZ, there's one small area where soldiers from both sides actually stand within feet of each other. The Joint Security Area, or JSA, at Panmunjom. A row of pale blue buildings straddles the border exactly. Step inside the middle one, and you can technically cross into North Korea without ever leaving South Korean soil. The demarcation line runs right through the conference table. Outside, South Korean soldiers stand in a modified Taekwondo stance, sunglasses on, half their bodies hidden behind the corner of a building, deliberately so a sniper across the line has less to aim at. North Korean guards stand watching just meters away. This is also the site of some of the most infamous DMZ incidents. In 1976, 2 U.S. Army officers were killed with axes while trying to trim a poplar tree that was blocking a sight line, an event that became known as the Axe Murder Incident and nearly restarted the war. In 2017, a North Korean soldier sprinted across the border under gunfire from his own side and defected, collapsing just past the line before South Korean troops dragged him to safety. Panmunjom is the only place on Earth where 2 nuclear-adjacent, technically still at war militaries stand this close, this often, without shooting. Since the 1970s, South Korea has discovered 4 secret tunnels dug by North Korea, burrowing beneath the DMZ toward Seoul. The largest one, found, the 3rd tunnel of aggression, is big enough to move 30,000 troops an hour, and its exit point is only about 44 kilometers from the South Korean capital. When North Korea was confronted about it, they claimed it was a coal mine. They painted the tunnel walls black with coal dust to sell the story. There is no coal in that granite. South Korean intelligence believes there may be more tunnels still undiscovered. Since the 1990s, they've been drilling exploratory boreholes along the border, searching. It's one of the clearest physical reminders that beneath the surface calm, planning for invasion never really stopped. Remarkably, a small number of civilians actually live inside the DMZ itself. On the southern side, there's Dizongdong, Freedom Village. Its residents are exempt from taxes and military service, farm some of the most fertile land in the country, and live under an 11 p.m. curfew with soldiers escorting them to their fields because they're farming inside an active minefield zone. Directly across from them sits Kijongdong, on the northern side, nicknamed Propaganda Village by the South. From a distance, it looks like a thriving town, tall apartment buildings, bright colors. But most intelligence assessments over the decades suggest it's essentially uninhabited. Buildings with no glass in the windows, lights on automatic timers, apparently built purely to be visible from the south as a display of prosperity. The two villages face off with something almost comically petty attached: competing flagpoles. When the north built theirs at 160 meters, the south responded. When the south responded, the north built theirs even taller, eventually reaching nearly 160 meters, one of the tallest flagpoles in the world, flying a flag reported to weigh close to 270 kilograms. A literal flagpole arms race. This isn't ancient history. The DMZ is still one of the most volatile flashpoints on the planet. North Korea maintains an estimated over 1 million active-duty troops, much of its artillery positioned within range of Seoul, a city of nearly 10 million people, sitting only about 55 kilometers from the border. Analysts have long noted that a full artillery barrage from the north, even without nuclear weapons, could cause catastrophic damage to the South Korean capital within the first hours of any renewed conflict. Periodic incidents still happen: naval skirmishes, artillery exchanges, GPS jamming, propaganda balloons drifting across the line packed with trash or leaflets depending on who's sending them that year. And yet, millions of tourists visit the DMZ every year. It's simultaneously one of the most dangerous and most visited border zones on Earth, an active minefield with a gift shop. 70+ years after the guns fell silent, the Korean peninsula is still, on paper, at war. Two nations, one people, split by a scar of land that was only ever meant to be temporary, and might be the most permanent impermanent thing on Earth. If you want to see what real border tension looks like, not the political talking points, but the actual soldiers, tunnels, and villages sitting on a hair trigger, that's the DMZ. If this kind of deep dive is your thing, subscribing really does make a huge difference. It's the biggest way you can support the channel.